You may have noticed a change in graphics and a change in title. So from now on, Demystifying Post-Production is called Create with Maxon. Welcome everybody to our Monday regular show where we demystify things and show you how to create things using Maxon products and tools. I hope everyone is doing well. Just let me know if you can all hear me. Give me a bit of a positive feedback. You can hear me, you can see me, everything is fine. No? Good morning, Scott. Yes, thank you very much. That's all I wanted. So I'm going to go through the usual housekeeping, and then we're going to get into particles. Now, I've got some things already set. I've got my notes in front of me to show you a couple of tricks and stuff like that, so you can do more complex particle setups. But if you have very specific particle questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I can't promise that I'll answer them because we have to stick within the hour today. But post them anyway, and if I can't find my way replying to them today, I will do that with my friend Jonas Pills. And let me go here. I'm alone today, so you can always find us on Twixer, at NosemanGR, or at Jonas Pills 3D to ask questions or generally annoy us or say various things. Now, let's first of all go to this little thing. Now, grab this screen grab, but this is a QR code, and my head actually. Is it visible behind that? No, it isn't, but the colors match, you know, orange over here. Oh, it's the background. So grab that, and let me do the housekeeping very quickly, and let me do this so you can see everything. If you go, and I'm going to post the links as well. I have to do everything. All right, let me start here. So go to this page here to ask your questions in this fabulous little form. And we do collect them in a spreadsheet, and we address them on the Ask the Trainer live show. And of course, if you want to see what events are going on, go to the Maxon events link. Let's paste this in. You should know these things by now, but in any case, a lot of interesting things happening in summer for the Northern Hemisphere, that is. Now, if you want to catch these shows recorded with timestamps and comments kindly, very generously supplied by Dr. Sassy, go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, which is one of the two channels we are streaming live as well. And of course, go and watch all the amazing content we have on the Maxon YouTube channel. But the recorded live shows are only posted on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. If you want to learn ZBrush and see what people are doing with this fantastic piece of software, please go to the Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel. And as I tell everyone, you can retire just watching tutorials. So you can learn until the end of days. And to show our appreciation for your participation in these shows, go to this address over here and claim a free t-shirt every month. And this month's magic code is Particle Magic, all one word, without any gaps, and all in caps. If you want to learn cinema audio and any of our other products, go to Cineversity, and I'm going to paste the link that has the particles because it has all the previous Demystifying Post-Production shows currently known as Create with Maxon. And also the series I did for particles to learn the ins and outs of all the technical little bits. Now, if you are one of those artists that haven't still dabbled with particles, I'm in the process of creating a sort of introduction series where I explain what they are and so forth. And before that, just go to the old Cineversity as well if you want to learn general things about cinema audio. We have thousands of tutorials here, which although the interface is outdated, the majority of the technical information is still relevant. And you have tons of tutorials to watch. Now, one thing I wanted to show here is Artlist.io. It's a fantastic footage, sound effects, music website. And let me paste that in here. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. And the reason I'm showing this, if you go to footage and you type particles, what you will see here is a lot of footage that was, and this could be camera footage or created digitally. And you can see all the things that could be potentially done using particle systems. And the one thing I want to make, there's a distinction, and again, this is for people that haven't used them, but in any case, one distinction I'm going to make in this particle introduction series is that if you can see the things, then it could be a particle system. If you can't see them and they're very nebulous, like smoke, for example, you can have a campfire and you can have smoke and embers from the fire. The embers would be particles, whereas the smoke would be a pyro simulation. So this is where things become a bit blurry. This is something you can fully do in particles, and so is this, because you can identify each and every one of these thingies. So if you identify these dots, then you would pretty much prefer to do it in particles. Whereas if you can't identify them, like maybe the center of this, that could be something to do with pyro. And using them together creates fantastic combinations like this thing here. And all these, I think this is proper footage. But in any case, just go to Artlist.io and get inspired, and maybe you find something here good for your project. I don't think we do have accounts with Artlist.io because they have fantastic content, but this is not an endorsement of any sort. Okay, so let me put this down and show Cinema 4D, and let me temporarily show my face. I think I'm going to use this interface here. There we go. So let me first remind you that if you have any questions, just preface them with the capitalized question so I can distinguish them from general comments in the comments section. And I will take a few breaks, for example, now and check out and see if we have any questions here. I'm going through this. So everyone, okay. Someone got their t-shirt last week. Good. That's fantastic. And let's move down here. Let's see if there are any questions before. Let me see this one, just to keep it in mind. How do you trigger an object animation, Alembic or keyframe, to start when the particle is spawned? Well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, coincidentally. So Tobias, just hang in there, and I will make a mention of one of the techniques we can do this. So let me maximize my screen over here, and let's get going. So I am going to touch upon this question by talking about particle age, because the particle age is one of those parameters that is very often used to make a particle do things in a certain time. So let me show you what I mean. So as usual, I'm going to go to my emitters here, or I can bring up my beautiful interface. I've made this. I'm very proud of it. And there's a tutorial about how to do this. So go and create a basic emitter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to emit from a single point. And I'm going to emit a shot of one particle, just because I want to see what's going on. And the particle group, oh, by the way, if this is closed and you can't see what's going on, if you Control or Command on the Mac, double click on this line, it will automatically open up so you can see all the elements in the object manager. Just throwing in some little tips. Now I'm going to show the radius of the particle, and I'm going to show it as handles. So we can see that little axis running along. You can see it's very small though, right? Look at that. Very teeny weeny little axis. I'm going to make it 10 times bigger. There we go. So we have a particle, and each particle holds a number of attributes. And you can find these attributes if you go to the particle group and go to the cache and twirl down this. You'll see that it has a velocity, it has a color, age, lifetime, radius, distance, unique ID, alignment, and angular velocity. Now, the age and the lifetime sort of work together depending on what you're trying to do. We're going to talk about the age now. The moment a particle is born, its age is 0. And with each frame, it advances by 1 frame. And this attribute is held within the particle's, let's say, data structure as seconds. Those seconds are broken down into the frames per second, So it divides that second by 30 to find exactly what frame it's on. But this makes the particles quite stable in terms of their calculations. But when we are doing age-based effects, if you go, for example, to the condition and well, drag it here and go to age, you can see that we're testing a value in frames because it's easier to work with integers rather than to work with, 0.03 seconds or whatever 1 divided by 30 is. And what is 1 divided by 30? So yeah, that will be 0.03 seconds would be 1 frame. It just makes it a bit more easy to work with frames. Now, let's get rid of this condition for now. So this particle over here, as its life goes on, it has an age of whatever the frame number is. So at frame, let's say 27, this particle is 27 frames old. And we can use this to do various things, including, and what our friend Tobias asked for, when we're using, objects under a MoGraph cloner. If you create a cloner and set it to be in object mode and drop a particle group in here. So let me select this again. You can see under here it's empty because this part of the MoGraph cloner gets populated with the data that's associated to the type of object you put in here. If you put a spline, you have different parameters. If you put a mesh object and so forth. If you put a particle system, which is the particle group, we get this, the velocity stretch, the particle scale, if we want the clones to comply to the particle scale. And we have these two map animation too, and that will be age or distance. The age is the particle age, whereas the distance is the distance that the particle travels. And for every 100 centimeters that the particle travels, it's going to play 1 second of animation. Now, you may ask me, what animation are we talking about here, where there are many ways to create animation? Well, in this particular case, we are talking about the keyframed animation that the clone has. So let's go and create a very simple object here. And we're having a few questions. I'm going to address them in a while. I do get easily distracted, but in any case. So we have this cube. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. There you go. And let's go and add some animation to this. And I'm going to add a very simple size X keyframe animation. You can add any animation that can be recorded to keyframes. That's a distinction between this and adding procedural animation. For example, an animated deformer or something like that. If you do want that to happen, you can do it, but the keyframes need to be in the cloner. So if I deform the cube, the deformer will have the keyframes, and those will be transferred to the function of map animation to age or distance. Anyway, long story short, let's go and add a keyframe at frame 0. I'm going to set the size Y to 20. And let's make this 30 frames, which is 1 second of animation. I'm going to grow this. There you go. So now this object has these two keyframes which cause this animation. Now, this is how you would make something like popcorn and stuff like that if you want it to animate over 3 or 4 frames. But for now, let's leave it as is. Now, this cube has that animation. If you put it under the cloner, rewind and press play, you will see that it just moves with the particle. Right? There's no mystery about that. And it grows at the same time. Now, if you map the animation to age, let's see what happens if we reset the age of the particle every 30 frames. So I'm going to go and do a condition and see if I can set this up properly. I need to tell the age if it's, this one here, if it's greater than 30 frames, then I'm going to use a math, which allows us to apply a certain age or something like that. And I'm going to assign an age of 0. Let's see now. Rewind, press play. And look at that. So what's happening in this particular case is that every 30 frames, again, if I turn these off Just make sure that you're paying attention. It will grow, and then it will just continue because there's nothing else happening there. But because we have mapped the object's animation, those keyframes, to its age, and what it will do is that every time the animation is going to be relative to the age. So this animation is only triggered using the age parameter. So what happens here is that when the particle reaches an age of 30 at this point, it's going to be not reborn, but the parameter of its age is going to be set to 0. And of course, in humans, you cannot reset your age. I'm constantly 29, but that's a different story. I'm Greek. But for most human beings, age is a linear process that goes forwards. Every day you age by a day. But with particles, we can say, oh no, at frame 30, you're now 0 frames old. And because it starts from here again, it will play the animation because you have these things tied. Now, if you want to trigger the animation, what you can do is you can actually, and this is the important part to do more advanced particle setups, you can tell this object to move to another group with this new age. So let me show you what I mean. Let's assume that we want the particle to move. We want this little cube to just move along. And I'm going to do the following thing. I'm going to name this particle group 1. And this I'm going to name it cloner 1. Because we know that cloner 1 has group 1. I'm going to go over here and make this clone 2. And I'm going to add one more group. So let's go and add one more group. I'm just going to put it here for consistency reasons. I'm going to name this group 2. Now, cloner 1, what I'm going to do is I think the animation mode is going to be fixed now. So one of the 2 cubes, let me turn this off. You'll see because I set the cloner to fixed, then the animation is not going to do anything, okay? You can see it's not animating between the 2. So when the particle reaches these 30 frames, its age is going to reset to 0. And then I'm going to tell it to switch group. And it's going to switch group and go to group 2. Right? So let's take a look at what this is going to do. Now, cloner 2 has the proper animation mode play, and this is set to age. So what's going to happen is, oops, did I do this properly? No, I didn't switch the group here. So cloner 2 needs to get object 2. So rewind, press play, and then it grows. So what exactly is happening here is that cloner 1 receives that one particle, and if you want to always troubleshoot your scenes, just go and set the actual draw to override. Let's set this to 10, and make sure that one of them has a different color. So I'm going to set this to green. And this way, even without the cloner, you'll be able to see that particle. Now, it's green over here, and get 1, its handles, get 2, oh, dots. Let me make it dots so you can see it. There you go. So up to frame approximately 30, it's green, and it only lives in this group 1. Therefore, it's going to be cloned by cloner 1. Then it switches to group 2, because I told it to switch to group 2 when it reaches the 30 frames. But at the same time, I'm resetting its age. Now, when I'm resetting the age, when it goes into this group, it's going to forget about this condition because there are no particles in group 2, in group 1 anymore. That was one particle that just happened to switch. But now group 2 it gets cloned using cloner 2. And that's why we start with a stable cube, and then it grows. And this growth can be an animation, can be anything. Now, if you're interested to see this in more, let's say, in an intricate sort of setup, the latest Ask the Trainer I did last Thursday, I'm actually showing how you can take an alembic and use this method by switching groups to get someone that's sitting in a chair idly. Just let me show my face. So someone was sitting in a chair and just moving around. And then when we trigger this, using a field condition in that particular case, then it will go into a different animation, which was a different alembic, which is a person standing up from a chair. And when that is done, because I measured the amount of animation that has, it will switch to a third cloner, which is walking away. So you can do a lot of interesting stuff using the method of resetting the age at an appropriate time, so that when after that, immediately after, and don't do it like this, do it like this. First reset the age, then switch group. And this group now has a particle that is already somewhere. In this particular case, it's here. You can see it here. But its age started at frame 30. So these sort of group jumps while resetting the age will allow you to do some interesting effects that are age related. Good. Oh, I haven't been showing my screen. I'm a terrible host here. So let's do this one more time. I know you'll enjoy looking at me, but it's good to look at my screen. So let's do this again. And a rewind. So this generates a particle, lives for 30 frames. And then at frame 30, it first resets the age. That's the important part. Then it switches group. And because we don't have that condition in here, we have a group that now is in this position, and yet its age is 0. Once you understand this little concept, then you can do all sorts of age remapping and stuff like that. So let me go through the questions for a second. I see $100 bills and all that. So we have this question over here. Although the format is not to answer questions, I'm breaking the rules today because I can. So, Yingzi, is thinking particle possible to combine with current version of particle simulation? Well, it depends what you mean combine. We cannot control the current particles using the modifiers and all that stuff we have in the new system. We can't do that. Whether we can do things with both in the same scene and all that, that's a different story. You could potentially do that, but you cannot control the current particles, the new particles, using thinking particles commands that are in Espresso. And thinking particles does not react to the modifiers of these particles. So to be safe, consider these two separate systems. Unless you're doing something extremely complex and something that requires programming, then I would say stick with these particles because they're about 1 million times faster, and you can do things simpler, and they're integrated much better with general Cinema 4D. So that's the answer. Now let's go to the $100 bills. Interests me. Is it American or Canadian? It's different because 100 Canadian is around 30 cents or something. So if I attach $100 bills to flying particles, how can I make them land flat when they touch the floor? Well, that's an interesting one. You could align them. There are ways to align the particles while they're moving using some sort of field or something like that. I don't want to take up the time to set this up. What I would suggest is go to that link you see on the screen, take a screen grab, and ask the question, because that will be there's a great opportunity to answer that in the Ask the Trainer series. So take a screen grab or go to the link that I provided earlier. And I think that is a very interesting question. Thank you very much for asking. Let's see what else do we have here. Sticky effector, in your case, sticky, well, you can stick them, but if you don't want them to suddenly flip like that, you should find a way to gradiate it. Anyway, ask the question and we'll provide you with a solution. Now, why is particle scale not 100% by default? It is, 1. We don't have particle scale here. We have, oh, wait, you mean in the MoGraph Clone, right? Over here. This means that the clones are going to, let me hide this and maximize my screen. So the particle scale is because, by definition, we want MoGraph to control the scale. Because this is additional to that, that's why it's 0%. And it's just a default. Half the people want it to be 0, half the people want it to be 100%. So I guess it is what it is. But yeah, no definite answer there. The answer would be, I don't know why, but it makes sense for some users. Okay, this is an interesting one here. If we use particles on a cloner with push-apart effector, do we get a sort of collision effect using there's some falling colliding petals? Well, you will get the clones because the whatever effector we add is going to affect the particles later on, and the push-apart is going to do that. So the clones are going to be generated. Let's quickly do that. Let's do it with a basic emitter, and let's emit a shot of 100 and put it on a sphere and make sure that these are still. Okay, so we have these particles, and let me extend this to 900 frames and make a cloner and a sphere, and let's say this is 10, because why not? Now let's go to, oops, I'm putting it in the wrong places. So cloner, set it to object, put the particle group here, rewind, press play, and we get all these. Now, you can go to the cloner after the fact and put a push-apart effector and set this to 10, right? So you can do this, but I guess if these start flying away, there's not much value in that. It's just that the original positions are going to have the avoidance. What you could do potentially is use a rigid body object here, and the rigid bodies are going to take over after the objects are generated. So for a quick reference, go simulation, get rid of gravity, because otherwise everything is going to fall. Right click here, go to simulation and add a rigid body, and you can do this. See, there's still a bit of overlap. Push apart, let's set this to 12 just to give it a bit extra, and 20 iterations just to make sure that everything is so not touching. And now you can use forces to move these, because the rigid body dynamics now are calculated and separately from the particles. You can add a bit of, I'm digressing here, follow position, follow rotation, and now they're going to follow slightly where the particles are going. But here, in this particular case, you are going to get the collision avoidance you're looking for. And that collision avoidance comes from the rigid bodies, not the particles themselves. So yeah, that's what I have for now. Hi, Sharon. I wanted to turn this off. And right. Hello from my very good friend, Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Oh, and here's Scott. Scott, say hi to everyone. All right. We have some private conversations going on. Can you loop it as a particle? I haven't thought of any particular looping mechanism. So that's a nice question to ask. If you can send a sample. So Scott, if you can send a sample of how you would like a looping thing to look, send an example of looping particles, and maybe we can come up with an answer for Ask the Trainer. Okay. Let's see. There we go. This is an interesting one. We have 3 kinds of particles. Actually, we have 4 kinds of particles. And I'll expand on that. Thinking particles, old particles, they're the standard particles, and the new particles. Even MoGraph is a particle system. Okay. Why doesn't Maxon create a single hybrid particles in incoming version? Well, this is it. This is it. You're watching it, right? There's thinking particles is there for legacy reasons, so that people can open up a scene from the old times and work with them. And in this particular case, you can actually export thinking particles as Alembic and re-import them here. And there are various ways you can gerrymander the attributes so that they work in very specific ways. But in any case, this is exactly what Maxon is doing. So you foresaw the future, or actually Maxon foresaw your question. And this is the new system. Everything else is just there for legacy reasons. We don't want to rip out things that will break compatibility with older scenes. Thank you, developers, for doing that. Okay, let's see. And let's see, transfer the color. All right, let's see if we can do this. How to transfer the color of the particles to the created spline. No, you can't. No, you can't do that. So if you go to the quick tips, you'll find on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, 2 weeks ago, I did a quick tip on how to create trails using particles that assume the color and all that nice stuff. Now, you would say, yeah, but it's not lines. Well, believe me, it may be more performant if you actually use that particle method, because essentially when Redshift renders splines or hair and all that, it actually renders little dots next to each other so tight that you see it as a line. As far as I know, if a Redshift developer is here and I'm making a terrible mistake, please edit the video and pretend I never said that. But that's how I think that Redshift works. So essentially, you're just creating the particles and using them for trails. I don't know if there's a method that could be developed. That's something that we need to take a look at. But for the current state of affairs, just watch that quick tip and you can create trails using dense particles, and they can assume different colors, they can have gradation, and you have a lot of control thickness and stuff like that directly from the particles. Okay, let me check my note. Okie doke. Now, let me show you how you can make rock, paper, scissors. So this may not have a very practical application, but it is an indication how you can program behaviors into your particles that do something other than particles themselves. So let's do this. I'm going to get a basic emitter, control double click, good, and call it rock, and go here and call this rock group, rock group. Excellent. And I can take the whole thing here and call this paper, and copy this and call it the paper group. Rock, paper, and scissors. Scissors. The only way I can spell scissors correctly is if I say scissors. Sorry about that. That's the Greek in me. Now, and what I'm going to do here is just rotate these around a bit like that. You know, move it around. Oops, let me just go to my top view so I can move it, make a little triangle thingy. I'm just rotating it this way. Okay, so we have these little groups here, 3 little groups. And I'm going to select my 3 groups. And this is a general way I like to work. I'm going to go and do a constant override, set this to 2 so I can see the particles bigger. And I'm going to make the first one red, the second one green, and the third one blue. That's because my brain works RGB, you know, 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z, and all that. And it's very, very helpful for me. Good. And it's spitting out all these particles. And I'm going to select all these 3 and change their size. I'm going to make them into little cubes. And what else do I need to do? And make sure that all 3 are just shooting, let's say 100 particles. There you go. So these particles are just shooting out. Now I can even put these in exactly the same position and rotation. It doesn't matter because the particles are going to interact. And just make sure that for each and every one of these, you have a different seed so that it generates particles at slightly different places. So it doesn't do exactly the same. Good. And finally, I've said finally a few times, let them have no speed. The speed is going to come to them. So we have these 3 particles. And the way we want to interact with these particles is that when the rock group hits the paper group, the paper is going to turn them into papers. So the rocks are going to become papers. When rocks and scissors come together, they're going to turn into rocks because the rock wins. And then when paper meets scissors, the scissors are going to win. So you can create these 3 relationships. Now, you can do this using the predator-prey. So predator-prey, we can say paper wins. And what this is going to do is the predator group for paper wins is paper, because that's the one that's going to win. And the one that loses is the rock, right? So that's the prey group. And on contact, which we can, the contact radius has to do with this number over here. I don't want them to chase, or maybe I want to, but we can play with these later on. The contact behavior is convert prey and convert it to the predator. So paper group. We can choose whatever group we want. We can have a third group. So now when paper comes in contact with the rock is going to be converted to paper. And you can set this full radius, so all the 5 centimeters are used with this, right? And you can expand this, let's say 20, and there's no fleeing strength. I don't want them to run away. And I don't want them to chase. Maybe we can make this random. So they're just going to move around, and when they touch, that's what happens. Now we go to the next one. So predator-prey, let's say rock wins. And all we have to do is reshuffle these groups. So the predator group now is going to be the rock group. The prey group is going to be the scissors group. And they're going to be converted into rocks. And the last one is schizo wins. And let's do the same. We put the scissors group in here. The scissors eats the paper and converts them into scissors. And the last thing I like to do in these cases is make a bounding box. Go to the render, display, use lines. So we just see the outline of that, and right-click, go to simulation, and make it a collider. Make sure it collides on the back because everything is inside, and add a collide to everything. So everything is going to collide with that wall. And let's see what this does. Set this to 9,000 frames or something like that. Just let it play. And they are converting because they're moving. They're not moving around. So maybe we can add some movement to them. Let's go 10. And let's see what's going on over here. I've probably done a bit of a bummer because when they're flashing, that means I've got a feedback. So the paper gets the rock and converts it into paper. The rock gets the scissors and converts it into a rock. And the scissors gets the paper and converts it into, scissors, it's not the paper. The scissors, oh yeah, paper, and converts it into scissors group. Go again. And maybe we can make them chase them a bit. So let's get some pursuit going on. And you can see that even with this, I've done a mistake somewhere, but I don't really care. What you're seeing here is we're creating a behavior, and I can make a clone. I've got a sample which I posted on my Twitter account. If you go at NosemanGR on Twitter, over a month ago, I posted an example on that. But what we're doing here is just by setting 3 simple rules, we are now creating a very odd behavior between these particles, some sort of behavior that we can't really program. We're giving them some sort of life. And let's go here and increase these to maybe 10,000, rewind. And you can see a lot of emerging shapes sometimes with these kind of things, and maybe even take these and make them flee as well, just for fun. Let's see if this is going to add any velocity to that or change their shape a bit and so forth. So the reason I'm showing this is that you can find all sorts of procedural types of movement with these particle setups. And you can create these interactions that will create effects like cells coming together, live organisms coming together, and that sort of stuff, which I particularly find very, very interesting. And of course, you can take each group and mesh it. So these are going to become sort of blobs that move in different directions and stuff like that. So yeah, go download that weird file over there. And yeah, I've done an obvious mistake here. I just need to make sure I find out what I did. Whatever. So rock, paper, scissors. And various behaviors, odd behaviors of particles. And again, you can do this with various things. For example, you can use a flock to force all the particles to sort of keep some sort of distance and no cohesion, but keep a certain distance from each other. And you can change the way the effect looks like. You can see it pushing away. You can tell the predator prey to have sort of a smaller speed and a smaller strength. And you can modify these parameters to create all sorts of different effects. Fantastic. So let's see if we have any questions here. And I'm going to continue with another little thing. And ooh, time flies. Let's see. So we have a question here that says, I haven't tried Pyro with new particles. Does new particle size affect Pyro source? I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the best way to answer a question is to try it. So make a basic emitter, make it 000, and shoot one particle. And let's go to this particle group and see if we can make, I haven't tried, can you believe that? I haven't tried to create Pyro using the particles. Well, the particle is moving and it's on fire, okay? Now I do have a thickness here, but let's say our particle had a radius of 20. Let's see if that's gonna do anything. And well, look at that. It does work. So I've just answered your question. Let's go. The answer is yes. Good, that was simple. Okay. They could be flashing because they're still in contact, but that's not what I did. There's something else I forgot to do, and yeah, I forget. You know, I need to show my face. I just said I forget. So, but again, go to my Twitter account, or maybe I can post this. Oh, let me find my post because I have a link, and that file exists. And let me find it. I can't find anything. Go search my Twitter account. Yeah, I've posted too much stuff. Go check my Twitter account, and I do have rock paper scissors scene file linked there. So I'm going to delete this to make it vanish from history. Although the internet remembers everything, you know that. Okay, now another thing I want to touch upon is the following. Creating quasi plants and stuff like that, because we don't need to use particles in their particle form, right? Maybe we need to use them in the form of things they are generating. Now, talking about generation, don't forget to go to the asset manager and go to scenes and type particles, right? And you get these. Now, one little addition we had lately was that, oops, if you hover over this, you will get a preview of what's going on. And there are some interesting, well, I am going to go through a few of these today. If anyone has any, which one you'd like to see. But there are some samples here where they show you how to create growth, things like corals and stuff like that. Just need to remember that's a glitter rocket. There was an interesting one that was growing. Is that the surface flow? No, it wasn't surface flow. Anyway, let me recreate something like that. Get a basic emitter and rotate it upwards. There we go, 90. And what we can do here is emit particles. Let's shoot. I don't want the particles to grow too much, just 10 particles. And what I'm going to do is set the speed to something like 20. At the same time, let's go and add a bit of turbulence. And select the group and go and add very quickly a tracer. And this is going to trace these lines, right? You can see it's tracing the lines. And if I want to bias them upwards, I can always go and create a gravity object and just make it point upwards and set the gravity to a small value, 100, or you can let it point downwards and put a negative value here. It doesn't really matter. And then just to stop them from constantly accelerating as they are now, you just go and add an extra friction. Now, there are ways to do it more mathematically using the math and just move them at a certain speed. You can force their speed to be of a certain type. So I can use the math to assign the velocity speed to 30. So even though we have this gravity that may be pulling on them quite a bit, it will still, their velocity is going to be the same. So there are many ways to go about doing the same thing. I'm going to leave the gravity and the friction because for no reason whatsoever. But what's happening here is that the gravity itself is straining them out because the turbulence is allowing them to go and sort of down in that way. But the gravity now is pulling them upwards. So I'm creating something that is wiggly, and I can go and tell my turbulence. And the order of operations does matter. I can tell the turbulence, give it a bit more strength, but at the same time, gravity is still trying to pull them upwards. So they'll always go upwards. And the great thing about this is that if you're happy with this general shape, you can say, okay, let me go and emit, do a shot of 1,000 particles. And why not? And let's make the velocity have a bit of variation. So 15. So that's quite a bit. So they will go anywhere from 5, which is 20 minus 15, to 35 centimeters per second. So we're going to have a great spread in speed. There we go. And you stop this here and you say, oh, this is a marvel of technology. We even have a little weed that grows downwards. How cool is that? Go to the tracer and do a current state to object, right? And hide it. I've hit it. Now, we're going up to 42, 45 frames. Set this to 45 frames and do the little magic thing. Go to animate and play mode. Set it to simple. This will allow you, when you play the animation, the cursor is going to stop here. So it won't wrap around. You don't have to stop it. Go to the particle emitter, and in the emission, change the seed, right? Just by any value. Do this again, and it's going to stop. Then right-click and say count state to object. Boom. Rewind. Go to the emitter and change the seed. Press play again. And of course, at the same time, you can go and change these values and whatnot. The seed in the tracer just changes where the particle is going to be generated. Where the turbulence is going to be, it's a different thing. So you may want to change this, or you can use another method to create that random seed. Now it's totally different. So again, you right-click and you say count state to object. What I have here is very quickly, without thinking about it too much, I have these 3 spline objects. That could be anything. It could be grass, it could be hair. Just when I talk about hair, you have to feel sensitive about my situation, okay? So no one mentioned hair except for me. I'm going to cry. I used to have a full head of hair, like curly stuff. I'm not joking. That's a sad story. And now with these, or any number of permutations, I mean, if you're not willing to spend 2 minutes to create this prototype and then play this animation 50 times, then I don't think I can show you anything simpler to do. This now, which you can connect and delete, or you can do whatever you want, is you can put these things under a cloner and you can create whole fields of grass. You can go and say, I want a random effector that rotates on this, so 360, and I want these to have an overlap. So you overlap them. And I want, you can go to multi-instance and do a bunch of these and a bunch of these. And now you have grass, and it will look random. You can create 6 or 7 of these. I don't even know how this is going to look. Let's go to Redshift. And anyone that's not been paying attention, what you could do if you go to media and grab an HDR, you can drag now since 2024.4 any HDR right to your object manager, and it will create the dome light and all that. Isn't that fantastic? And the cloner, I think it needs a render tag of Redshift object, and we need, I think I need to put it under a connect object and put this here. Give me the lines. It's not giving me the lines. Why isn't it not giving me the lines? I need to, oh, curve, here we are, curves. And hair strands. I'm not paying attention, apparently. A lot of lines, progressive. Oh, where is it? Oh, yeah. Multi-instance. A bit of a, because I put it under the connect object, so let's put it under instance. Let it create the geometry itself. It should work with a cloner, shouldn't it? I don't know. Let me, did I create too much geometry? I'm pressing escape to stop it from generating geometry. Come on. I think I gave it too much work to do. That's what happens when you can do things easily. You make too much of these things. So just to make sure I'm still here. Hi. Yeah, I don't have the best graphics card. I've only got 16 gigs of RAM on my RTX 5000. I like to keep my PCs and not change them and get the latest and greatest. So I think I bogged down the RAM. So I hate this when it happens. So I'm just going to show my face, and without any shame, I'm going to go and restart Symfony because I can't wait it to stop. And I'm going to fire it up again. It's firing up. I promise you that. And here it comes. 3, 2, 1, 0.5. There we go. So the idea with the particles I was trying to show is that you can create other structures, including, I don't mind if anything happened. I'm going to try something similar again. And if I freeze it again, I froze it. Who cares? So let's get this. And if I'm not going to render them, what I am going to do is use my tracer again, using not the basic emitter. So I had the wrong object selected. So let's delete this and put the particle group in here. Let's do the same thing again. Shoot 100. And let's give them, let's go here and put, again, 45. And go to animate and do a simple. Now, this tracer itself, you can see we're creating these little things. This, we don't need to render it as it is, but we can actually put it under volume builder and make sure when you are using splines under volumes, you can go here and change the density so you have closer voxels, and you can make the radius a bit bigger. Or I think you can use, no, if you're using the particles directly, you can do that. Make sure you have enough voxel size here, and look at that. So you can create corals. So if I go here now and say I want the speed to have some sort of spread, and I want to have, remember that beautiful turbulence I did? That was a masterpiece of artistic. There you go. So now we have this volume, which could be corals. And if you mesh this, you have instant coral builder. There you go. Here's your coral. And what else can we do here? You can scale along. That's not particle related, but you can do it per segment. So it scales all the particles. Make this one, so we have a bit more fidelity to work with. So maybe I want them to be thinner at the top, but you can see we can use particles for modeling when they're used appropriately. And again, current state to object this, and you can do something else, and you can use all these to populate your scenes with beautiful stuff. So let's go and check out any questions here. Let's see. Can I stick particles to the emitter? This is a question. How can I stick particles to the emitter? Yeah, you can. Let me show you an interesting example of something I've been working on. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start. Remember, I promised you I'm going to stay within the hour. I can't promise that anymore. So I'm going to use my nice icosahedron because it's a Greek word. And if you want to learn Greek, ikosi is 20. Icosahedron is a 20 edge. Edra is a face, 20-faced, whatever. And what I'm going to do is get a displace deformer or a random effector, regardless how you want to deform this. So let's get a random effector here. Let's drag it in here. Let's set it to points. Make sure the parameter is the Z. I'm going to increase the resolution of this, and I'm going to go and make sure that my noise is quite big. So I can put a turbulence in here, and that will do, right? You can see now this is sort of blobbing around. So what I'm going to do here, which is going to incorporate part of the answer of the question that I was asked about, how can I stick particles, right? This is the question we're addressing. So first of all, let's select the sphere and use a mesh emitter. And this is going to emit from the mesh because it automatically populates it. And it's going to do this. So nothing interesting up to here. Then I'm going to say I don't want any velocity on these particles. And I'm going to shoot, say, 10,000 particles. So what you can see is instantaneously, the particles are going to be emitted on the surface, right? But after that, the object keeps moving. So we're going to lose this. Okay, so what do? Well, I'm going to use a stick. And I need to make sure that my sphere is a collider object. So what this is going to do is whatever the shape of the sphere is going to be, the particles are going to stick to its surface. And now we get the particles stuck to its surface. Even if I make this sphere invisible, you will see they're stuck there. So already you have something that looks very interesting. Talking about interesting, in my usual sort of method, you can trace these. So now you're getting these lines, and you can go to from end and say, I want them to sort of contract and be 15 frames long, the spline. So now we're going to get these things, maybe make it 5. So you're getting this interesting sort of growing effect. Now, I think this is worth your time being here anyway, just seeing this, maybe 2. But in any case, you can do all these nice things. Now let's see what else we can do with this. So we've answered the question successfully. I want to say, oh, Sharon, are you back? Would you like me to say everything I said the last 10 minutes? No, I'm just joking. Yeah. Right. We have a good comment here. Nose on nose, hair, t-shirts, please. Good. I'm going to consider that, Rev Color. All right. You'll get no credit for the idea. I will say that, like nose man knows, that's not even my idea, and everyone thinks. Good. So what I'm going to do now, I want to create a setup where, depending on the speed the particles are moving, because some of them, depending on the area of my random effector, may be going slower than others that are going faster. Now I can change animation speed here. But in any case, I want to dislodge particles that are going above a certain speed. So for this, I'm going to use a condition. All right, so the particles are stuck nicely, comfortably stuck. I think that was a Pink Floyd song. Comfortably stuck. No, I think it's something else. So, and what I'm going to do is say that when the velocity speed exceeds, so is greater than a whatever number I'm going to choose here, let's say 100 centimeters per second. Now, when things are stuck on a surface, these velocities are quite fast from frame to frame. And what I'm going to tell it is whenever a particle exceeds the particular speed which we're going to play around, what I want you to do is switch group. So let's get this and call this dislodged. Dislodged. I don't care. Right? I'm Greek. I make spelling mistakes, right? So that's when I default to my, it's not my fault. English is my second language. And I'm going to tell this condition to switch group. Boink. And I want it to switch group to dislodged particles. So these are playing around, and the dislodged one, did I switch? Yeah, dislodged. I'm going to change the color to red. And you can see that everything switches, quite quickly. So what we're seeing now is some particles are retaining their greenness, and some, and I'm going to make them bigger, this one and this one. Make this too. So you can see when this starts, only a few particles do that. So I can make this when it exceeds 150. So very few are going to go. There you go. And at the same time, this dislodged thingy is actually going to have a stick in unstick mode. because stick can unstick. So now the particles are actually shot when their speed exceeds a certain amount, which makes this extremely interesting. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is you can actually do that using a vertex map, so you can sort of drive which ones are going to be, or you can use a field or something like that, because I can take this condition. I say, you know something, I want a field condition. And this field condition here is going to have a linear field. I'm going to put the linear field over here. The 0 value. Where the arrow is the 1 value. So everything on this side is going to be from 50th percentile, and this way is going to be true. Everything from this point and this way is going to be false. I'm going to make this narrower. And you can pull this out. You don't need it to be there. So when this field goes through, only then I want it to check the speed. This is how we nest these conditions. And let's play. So all particles should stay put, and then I can control at which point that test for speed comes in. Now I say, nope, not anymore. Oh, it went through. I was quite fast. Let's do this again. There we go. Oops. And there we go. Oops. And of course, the other thing you could do is you can use the collide in here after they're unstuck. And this will essentially allow them to be pushed and you can use repel instead of collide. It will just repel them. So you can do combinations of these things to control your animation a bit more. There you go. So these are some of the general principles you can use to create a bit more interesting animations. Oh, by the way, this is a very good moment to say that, well, what if I want these red ones, after they've dislodged, to die after a certain amount, all right? I don't know when I'm going to move my linear field, so I don't know their age. So we're going to use the previous technique. You're going to go right before they switch group over here, and you're going to tell them to have an age of 0. So just before they switch to this group, they're going to have an age of 0. And that allows you to kill them over here. When? Well, when their age is larger than, let's say, 15 frames. And you can put a chance here, so to make it a bit more random. And I want to kill them. Well, they're particles. I mean, I don't feel sorry for them. So now everything's going to stay alive. Staying alive. I was ready to sing the little riff, but I'm not going to do that. There you go. Look at that. You can make little bubbles come off a surface. I mean, you know, you're the artists. I shouldn't have to say this. Oh, but wait, there's more. What if I take this, and I'm going to show the radius, right? What if I want these to grow like bubbles within their limited lifetime? They're going to live, these poor things, only for 15 frames, right? So I might as well give them something. So I'm going to get a data mapper. And within their limited, miserable, otherwise lifetimes, I want to take their life age percentage. Age percentage is from birth to perishing. And I want the scale, is my scale somewhere, radius, sorry, my radius, to go from, what are we emitting here? We're emitting particles with a radius of 1. So I want this data mapper to linearly, so reset this to go linearly, or get rid of those knots, to go from 1 to 10. Why not? So now, in the final moments, they're going to grow bigger. All I have to do is go here and show the radius. Where's my radius? Dislodged, data mapper, and I want them from age percentage 0 to 100% to go from 0 to 1 scale. Why doesn't it show my scale? Draw radius 1. Am I not seeing the radius for some reason? Oh, there you go. It's just not big enough, right? 20. And let me see, from age percentage 0 to 100%, property out radius. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Because they're not growing as far as I can see. Give me a second. I'll figure it out. That's the lifetime age percentage. Okay, we have hit a point, or so math, assign age of 0, switch group to dislodged. In the dislodged data mapper, the age percentage, and 1 to 20 in range should be, yeah, don't know, oh, the opposite. From 0 lifetime to 100, sorry, I'm thinking out loud now. From age percentage 0 to 100%, and 1 to 93. I have no idea why this is not working. So I probably, let's see if anyone is there. What up, Noseman? Oh, Winbush! I need to say hi to Jonathan. Wait. Hold on to your perils. Jonathan, my friend, how are you? I've missed you, buddy. It's been a while. I've been following you, though. I've been snooping around. So, everyone, Winbush in the house. Yeah, I don't know. So this is one of those things where I owe you one. I do not know where I'm doing my mistake now, but you have to forgive me about this. The data mapper should get the age percentage, which is the age of from 0 to okay. Sorry, my mistake. Right, this is a very good opportunity to show you what I mean here. Okay, so I put the data mapper. When they switch groups, right? When they switch groups, it doesn't mean that they're going to be immediately gone. Okay. So what I need to do here is put this, let me see. So they die when they become 15 frames old. Yes, because they don't have an age percentage. So let me analyze that. Simplify that. We reset their age to 0, correct? Yes, correct. But we didn't give them a lifetime. And as far as Cinema 4D is concerned, these are immortal particles. I am killing them upon a condition. But in order for the age percentage to work, these need to have a lifetime. So what I had to do is go to math, reset their age, set their lifetime to a predictable age range. In this particular case, to make this work, I'm not going to go with age percentage. What I'm going to go is with age. And I'm going to say, well, if my condition is 15 frames, I just want them to grow over 15 frames to 10 centimeters. So this was a totally brain problem from my side. There's our bubbles. Because for some reason, I'm old. I mean, I need to make you feel sorry about it. I'm old. I'm hairless. I wear glasses and I have a beard. So forgive me, my brain didn't function properly. I should have used the age, because the age percentage, and this is what you need to take as the lesson, the age percentage requires you to have a finite lifetime. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, funny, Sharon, funny. So the last thing I want to say, which touches upon the age, this is a bit of a technical thing, but when we say upon birth that a particle has a lifetime of 0, the way I explain it in the tutorials is that the particle has an infinite lifetime. That's actually technically not correct. What this case of lifetime 0 does, it takes the largest integer number. It's a big number. Like, I think you can go into something here and type a bunch of 9s and press enter. So the biggest number we can do, I think, in Cinema 4D, I'm going to type it in here, is, I think, this in frames. Oh, that's the biggest number in frames. I think there is a bigger number we can use in Cinema 4D's attributes. So let's go here and type. I'm just pressing 9 to get the biggest possible number. Press enter. Copy this and paste it in my text, just in case you're ever wondering what is the biggest number Cinema 4D can produce. This is the centimeters, right? So this is 2,147,000,000. Maybe it's even bigger, but what I'm trying to get to is that when you set your mesh emitter, your emitter generally to 0, it just uses the largest number it can use. So it looks infinite because you could never make a scene that has so many frames, but it's so large that if you use the age percentage, it will take you a lot of time to get to 1% or 2% or 3%. You have to go thousands and thousands and thousands of frames. But if you use any other number, that's the number it uses. So again, to just go back to this, I could set assign the age or something like that, or I can assign the lifetime. And I could do this. So I can say math age equals 0, just to remember what this is. And I can do another one that says map life equals 15. And I'm going to go here and say, okay, assign the lifetime to 15 seconds. So now I don't need to kill them. They are going to die in 15 seconds after they move to this group. And the data mapper now can be age percentage from 0 to 100%. I think this is going to be do the same thing. And it does. So it's the different method of achieving the same result, but there is this relationship between the particle age and the particle life, which is quite important to get to understand as a general concept. Okay, I'm going to check the questions, and let's see what Sharon's asking a question. Okay, can you show this rendering in Redshift? Yeah, although you will not be impressed. It's going to show dots. So by definition, without putting any tags or anything like that. So let's go to frame 100. So I'm going to go to frame 100, and I'm going to use my animate trick. Just simple, rewind, and let it go to 100. This is how I do thumbnails and stuff like that for tutorials. There you go. We have a fixed scene. Now let's bring up Redshift. That's my Redshift layout. Let's do this. There you go. So by definition, let's add an HDR. You know why? Because it makes things look pretty. There we go. See, it looks pretty. Now it looks like the same thing in a parking lot. Anyhow, so it will use the particle color by definition. Each particle group is going to be rendered when you render without any tags. It's the same as adding this and setting this to optimize spheres, and it's very, very fast. Unless you have a particular reason for doing something, always use optimized spheres. And yeah, that's the question answered. Okay. So with that mistake fixed, just showed how I can do mistakes too. Everyone can do mistakes. Or I may have done it on purpose. That's a nice thing you can always throw at the end of a presentation to just put the doubt in people. You know, when people are not exactly sure you made a mistake, or are you so good you can make those mistakes confidently and make them have that little doubt. I'm in the second category. Okay, how do you assign transparency to particles? All right, this is the last question I'm going to go with. So full screen. I did show it. Let me. Number one, Ngalbu. I showed it in Ask the Trainer, as far as I remember. But I'm going to show you again. And to do that, when you have let's go to the particle setup. If you have a color mapper where you want to change the colors of the particles, you can always go to this property and edit the alpha. This is what you need to do. So you can edit the alpha. And this will add transparency to the particles. And then if you go to your material and you go to your user data, color user data, what you will see here is in the particles, we have particle color and particle color with alpha. If you just want the alpha, just use a splitter. And from the RGBA image, you just grab the alpha. But if you want to use you will have to do this if you want to put it in the opacity anyway. And this is what you do. You put the color in here and you put the alpha from the opacity over there. You can always go and delete these or just click on this button here and there you go. Color alpha. So that's how you do it with transparency. And yeah, I think that's all I have for today. There we go. So, oh, I've got one more. I have to. Is there a function to advect particles from Pyro over density threshold? Oh, you can advect particles. Yeah, go watch my tutorials of show how to advect them. All you have to do is just add a particle advect. If you need something more specific, we don't have. So just to make it clear, we can not use the parameters of density or temperature to do something special. The only thing that can advect particles currently is velocity. But because velocities are dependent on various parameters of the Pyro simulation, like density and temperature, it's sort of an indirect way to affect them. But currently, we don't have that ability. Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us for another beautiful Monday. It's raining today, but that's good. It's very green up here in Quebec, like astonishingly green. I'm so glad I'm here. So again, thank you, everyone. Don't forget to go and use this little code in that link I posted above, so you can get your free T-shirt. Don't forget that the show is called Create with Maxon, and I have an end screen here, which I'm going to put on in a little while. Again, I'm grateful for you hanging out with me here and tolerating my excellent jokes and my impeccable physique, and sharing your wisdom. Thank you very much, and I'll see you. I don't know if it's on Thursday. Go check the events page and see when we're going to see each other again. Toodaloo. I'm looking for the end screen.